A hobby that helped save Alaskans during the 1964 earthquake is still keeping communications online when natural disasters shut them down.
Now we look at ham amateur radio operators who function as first responders, releasing crucial information to emergency management officials in disaster situations.
Channel 2's Derek Minnemeyer caught up with a man who has spent an entire life with a radio in his hand.
Ontario, looking for California stations.
A voice reaches out across a continent.
November Tango, this is KL7 JFT, Alaska.
And these ears are listening.
Oh, okay, good signal from Alaska.
We have a motto, when all else fails, you call a ham.
Don Bush is the district emergency coordinator for the ham amateur radio group in the Matsu Borough. For him, ham is more than a hobby. It's part of who he is.
You know, a lot of this started with the '64 earthquake. And I was in high school at that time, and that's when I got involved in ham radio. I was an avid CBer.
When the 9.2 magnitude earthquake struck the Prince William Sound, communities hundreds of miles apart were left without power or communications. Radio was the only technology capable of relaying information, and ham operators were quick to provide the outside world with the extent of the damage so emergency responders could develop a plan.
Critical link in any major disaster is the flow of information, getting the status of a particular area that's in trouble back to the people that can help.
During emergency situations, Don pools all amateur radio operators in the area onto one radio frequency called a net.
We all meet there and say, okay, what's the situation at Kinnick? What's the situation in Palmer? And I start collecting this information in.
Once the hams determine the severity of the emergency, Don relays that information to people who can help.
Roger, time for the rubber mallet.
Ham amateur radio may be a hobby, but it's also a crucial lifeline for emergency management officials in disaster situations. Fort Richardson houses the state's Emergency Operations Center.
If it were not for amateur radio, we really could not do our job.
Brian Fisher is the Chief of Operations of the state's emergency management team.
So this is the dispatch center of the state's Mobile Emergency Operations Center. It's probably the most high-tech communications vehicle that's in the state of Alaska today.
Allowing them to communicate anytime, anywhere in the state of Alaska. And it has a whole station dedicated to amateur radio operations.
I consider them first responders, just like law enforcement officers, EMTs, and firefighters. Their ability to communicate in real time and provide the picture, the situational awareness of what's happening in a disaster area is vitally important.
Don says there are about 4,000 ham radio operators in Alaska. Many of them, like him, are phasing out.
And the members are getting pretty long in the tooth. And so that's why we're so avid on getting new hams into the hobby.
Don is working to pass on his knowledge to younger generations, keeping the amateur radio emergency capability alive. The Matanuska Amateur Radio Association teaches classes on how to operate radio equipment, as well as provides FCC certification testing once a month.
Folks, you know, seeing what happens on the flooding and the hurricanes and stuff like that down south, see that what happens and where the hams have been coming forward, and they want to get involved.
Derek Minnemeyer, Channel 2 News.
Now, for more information on classes and FCC certification testing, you can visit the Matanuska Amateur Radio Association's website, or you can find them on Facebook as well.